Members, good morning. It's the appointed time and we have a quorum. Let's start the meeting of the Subcommittee on Matters Relating to the Development of the Northern Metropolis. Agenda item number 1. Well, the next meeting of the subcommittee will be held on the 28th of May, 10:45 a.m. to talk about matters relating to INT development. After confirming the details of the meeting with the administration, we will inform members. In May, we will be conducting 2 duty visits to Shenzhen. First, on the 9th of May, we will be heading to the Shenzhen side of the Chongying Street Shuttlecock, and we will also be visiting Daxiao Meisha Beach and Yantian Night Market to conduct the site visits on the ecological development. And on the 16th of May, we will be heading to Shenzhen Bay Super Headquarters Bay, Deep Bay Smart Center, and Qianhai Bonded Area, as well as Mawan Smart Port to study on their district-based approach of development. The Secretariat will inform members who have signed up for the duty visit about the details, and you can continue to sign up for the trip. Next item, post-secondary education development in the Northern Metropolis. Welcome government officials for attending the meeting. With us today from the administration are Mr. Jeff C., Undersecretary for Education, Ms. Jerry G., Principal Assistant Secretary, Mr. Casper Ng, Principal Assistant Secretary, and from the University Grants Commission or Committee Secretariat, we have Mr. Louis Lan, Deputy Secretary General, and from the Development Bureau, Mr. Vic Yao, Director of the Northern Metropolis Coordination Office, NMCO. I will ask the administration to walk us through the paper. Thank you. Good morning, members. The Northern Metropolis is one of the strategic development area of Hong Kong, is one of the driving force of Hong Kong to scale new heights. The new Northern Metropolis have a comprehensive traffic and transport structure, manpower, and is closely connected to the mainland, and it provides invaluable resources for the post-secondary education sector in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is the only city with 5 universities in the world's top 100. In the 2023 policy address, the chief executive mentioned that we should turn Hong Kong into a cradle of talents and international post-secondary education hub. We should also develop Northern Metropolis University Town. Now we will talk about our direction and strategies in developing the Northern Metropolis University Town. To support the development of secondary education in Northern Metropolis, we will, in Hung Shui Kiu Ha Chi New Development Area, Ngau Tan Mei, and New Territories North New Town, we will be reserving some 60 hectares of land. For the land in Hung Shui Kiu Ha Chi New Development Area, the site formation will be completed very soon. And we have reserved for 5 hectares of land for the development of new self-financing post-secondary institution campus. We ask the potential parties to submit proposals, and we will also launch a new round of startup loans to allow higher institutions to get interest-free loans. Different developments of the Northern Metropolis are closely connected. We hope that the strategies and directions will complement with the development and create synergy. We will follow the following 4 directions. First, industry-led. In the new Northern Metropolis New Town, we will promote VPET development to nurture talents with professional skills, and we will adopt the strategy of fostering industry-institution collaboration and diversified development. We will also introduce and nurture INT talents and provide high-end professional training services. Also, we need to support Hong Kong to develop into an international post-secondary education hub and a cradle of future talents. We have to leverage on our advantage of enjoying support of the motherland and being closely connected to the world. And we should collaborate with renowned institutions on the mainland and overseas To build an internationalized campuses, we need to provide diversified cultural experience for local students. On hardware, the Northern Metropolis has abundant land resources to provide facilities for students and teachers. We will also reserve land for the construction of shared facilities to support institutions to jointly develop and manage student facilities, enhancing the cost effectiveness of developing the area and benefiting more students. And we will also encourage cross-boundary, cross-sectoral, interdiscipline collaboration to develop niche areas for institutions and Hong Kong. Third, we should complement with the national strategies. Through Northern Metropolis University Town, we will encourage the development of high-quality collaboration. Through complementary development, we can make use of more flexible teaching modes to attract more institutions to take part in collaborative project. Apart from that, the campuses can set up a point in the Northern Metropolis University Town and take up the role of super connector to promote the exchanges and collaborations of mainland and overseas universities, complement mutual advantages and enhance synergy to scale up international development of Hong Kong academics and research and to contribute to the development of GBA Super Talent Hub. On industry-led step-by-step, we will, in phases, promote the development of Northern Metropolis University Town in accordance with the Northern Metropolis Action Agenda. To align with the industry-driven and infrastructure-led approach, institutions will take forward development in the area of self-financing mode, adopt new approaches in program planning, teaching, and research to keep pace with the time, deepen collaboration with industries, proactively support the future strategies or strategic direction indicators of the country and Hong Kong through nurturing talents and create strong impetus for Hong Kong's development. The Education Bureau in late June organized a briefing sessions to post-secondary institutions, VTC and UGC-funded universities on the education land in the Northern Metropolis University Town. In August last year, the Education Bureau have invited interested institutions to submit proposals for exchanges. 19 post-secondary institutions participated in the engagement activity and submitted proposals. Major proposals are, first, an institution wishes to move the whole existing campus to Northern Metropolis, and some institutions want to have more collaborative exchanges with their mainland campuses for synergy, and some institutions plan to set up satellite campuses to provide more academic and research space, and an institution plans to set up an internationalized university campus in a self-financing mode to provide more joint programs with overseas well-known institutions. Also, some institutions plan to promote VPET that features cooperation between industries and education and integration of science and education, supporting the industry development and strengthening collaboration with industry partners in the area to nurture professional talent. And multiple institutions wish to set up more shared facilities such as animal centers, data centers, student hostels, sports facilities, and libraries, and so on. The Education Bureau is reviewing the proposals and is consolidating the views from the institutions. We will keep in close liaison with the post-secondary institutions to review the demand and supply of land. We will consider the feasibility, the cost effectiveness, and how we can make use of existing teaching facilities. And we will follow up on these proposals to implement the construction of University Town in new territories in phases. So much for my presentation. Thank you. Now it's the time for questions from members. I will read out the order. Mr. Luk Chung Hong, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Professor William Wong, Mr. Dennis Leung, Mr. Chi Kwok Kan, and Mr. Andrew Lam. The meeting will end at 12:45. Each member will have 5 minutes. First, Mr. Luk Chung Hong. Thank you, Chairman. Post-secondary education development in the Northern Metropolis will solve the land issue. That is the shortage of land that we have in Hong Kong. We have quite a number of micro-universities in Hong Kong compared to other parts of the world. I have a few points to make. Industry-led, we have to complement with the national development and work with overseas institutions. Well, how do we introduce top-notch post-secondary institutions to come to Hong Kong? Under this one country, two systems principle, well, Hong Kong can serve as a springboard for mainland institutions to go global. And I am actually studying at a mainland institutions, and a lot of people are interested in pursuing continuing education at post-secondary institutions on the mainland. So how do we encourage undergraduates to study on the mainland? For example, for Tonghua schools, for example, they want to have a campus at the Northern Metropolis. For VPET institutions and post-secondary institutions run by the community, how does the government encourage that so that students have more choices? On VPET, I know that we have a program to encourage VPET graduates to stay in Hong Kong. We have a shortage of manpower locally, and local students don't like to study VPET. And now we have this scheme that is the vocational professional admission scheme to encourage VPET graduates to stay in Hong Kong to work. I think that apart from post-secondary education institutions, we should encourage VPET institutions, for example, the Tonghua College, to set up institutions in the Northern Metropolis. Thank you.
Undersecretary, please. Thank you, Mr. Look, for your questions. First of all, on attracting top-notch post-secondary educational institutions from the mainland, indeed we welcome this. Actually, more and more Hong Kong students are going to the mainland to further their studies, be it undergraduate or postgraduate program. A couple of Hong Kong universities that are UGC funded are establishing branches in the mainland. They work hand in hand to provide courses. There are also mainland educational institutions coming to Hong Kong to work on research and development. We actually welcome these institutions. As I was walking you through the papers, we do encourage UGC-funded universities in Hong Kong to work more with top-notch, eminent universities around the world. So they can play a part in the development of the NMUT, Northern Metropolis University Town. Members also mentioned some examples of educational institutions. Soon in 2026 in Hung Shui Kiu Ha Chi New Development Area, we have earmarked 5 hectares of land. It's exactly for self-financing post-secondary educational institution to develop their campuses. Just now, Hong Kong Metropolitan University has become the first university of applied sciences. There are some self-financing educational institutions also providing courses or programs. We'd like to write on the development of VPET. We support its development in the Northern Metropolis. Member also mentioned VPAS, that is the Vocational Professionals Admission Scheme. We have a scheme that welcomes non-local graduates to stay in Hong Kong so they can develop and carve out a career in Hong Kong. That is very conducive to enlarging the talent pool in Hong Kong. We'd like local educational institutions to provide practicum internships. They can work hand in hand to provide more information about the industry and that about Hong Kong to students. Then non-local students can keep their finger on the pulse of the development of Hong Kong. This will also incentivize them to stay in Hong Kong upon graduation. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Innovation and technology is the focus of the Northern Metropolis. It's important to attract and strengthen talents. So in the Northern Metropolis, to develop VPAD, I believe members will definitely support this idea. I also agree with the principle of industry-led. The focus of education is indeed VPAD in the Northern Metropolis. This will bring about good opportunities. However, they are opportunities, but they also present challenges. Many local universities are setting up campuses in the GBA. For example, the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology in the mainland, and then for CDU in Dongguan. We have created a brand effect. That is, when we open a campus in the GBA market, it's often very well received. I said they are both opportunities and challenges. In planning a research institute or another campus is no easy task. So we are saying that we need to do our level best to grasp these opportunities, but then we need to have enough resources. That's how we can ride on this opportunity. We need to be pragmatic. We need to be down to earth. If we want to do it, we must be able to fare well in this. On the collaboration with overseas universities, I also support the policies in this area. But how can we get students? This may present a greater challenge. Many local universities are saying that there are not enough students. Actually, the admission rate of university is very low. There are only 30,000 or so newborns every year in Hong Kong. If we don't count in foreign talents, the population of Hong Kong has been shrinking. The Northern Metropolis can accommodate a total of 2 million people. So who will go to the Northern Metropolis to study in these universities. We've been talking a lot about the Northern Metropolis development, but then we don't talk much about the population policy. Let's hear from the administration. Undersecretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Low. I agree that the Northern Metropolis has both the opportunities as well as challenges when we talk about education. Actually, we adopt a cautious attitude. As I said, we consider the viability, cost effectiveness, and how different educational institutions will make good use of their campus facilities as well as public resources. When there's new land, many educational institutions also welcome new land because they can develop their campuses. They can have more infrastructures. But we also need to see whether they are in line with the 4 development strategies I mentioned just now. For example, are they really industry-led? Can they be an important engine for the development of Northern Metropolis? We also need to take into account the cost effectiveness of the project, in addition to a whole raft of other factors, so we need to tread cautiously. Regarding a decline in the school-age population, indeed, this is the truth in Hong Kong. It's happening. There are different ways to boost the birth rate in Hong Kong, but it will take time. In the meantime, there will be new economic impetus in the Northern Metropolis, and we are confident with new developments we can attract more talents to come to Hong Kong. This will help Hong Kong enlarge the talent pool. The government has been making arrangements for the positioning of educational institutions. We want to help self-financing educational institutions to enhance its quality for the purpose of the healthy long-term development of the industry. On developing the education sector, I mean developing Hong Kong into an educational hub. Through different publicity efforts and promoting the post-secondary educational institutions in Hong Kong, this will enlarge the student pool. This will also ease the decline of the birth rate in Hong Kong. Next, Professor William Wong. Thank you. I agree with the idea of developing VPAD in the Northern Metropolis. We, on the one hand, said that we are an education city, but at the same time, we also say that we need to troll for students. We need VPAD talents, not just research talents. So Dr. Low just now mentioned having campuses in different areas, but our positioning is clear. For example, in Longgang, it's more research-based, but in the Northern Metropolis, it should focus on VPAD. In Hong Shou Kyu Ha-Chun Development Area, 5 hectares of land. that for the University of Applied Sciences? Is that for the development of these universities? Just now you mentioned VTC. This is important as well. Regarding some shared facilities, indeed, we can make good use of land, and I definitely support it. Will the university work on it, or the administration will work on it, or the private sector will work on it? You also mentioned New Territories, North Newtown, and Old May. Are they the areas for university town? I mean the university city? Undersecretary, thank you, Professor William Wong. In May and Hongshui New Development Area, the earmarked 5 hectares are not just for University of Applied Sciences. We also welcome all self-financing post-secondary educational institutions to make applications. There are various policies to support the development of University of Applied Sciences. Earlier on in the panel on education, there were also discussions on this, including subsidies for providing courses. So we also welcome other educational institutions to make applications on shared facilities, any arrangements or management. Will we introduce private organizations or enterprises? We keep our options open. It also depends on what shared facilities we are talking about. Is it a data center, animal center? In our consultation of institutions, they gave us some opinions. For instance, if we are to build shared facilities, say an animal center to be shared by different educational institutions, we need to first of all know which university is interested in taking part in it. Will there be any research projects that are related to the animal center? Educational institutions would like to develop this area in a self-financing method. We also use public money if the programs are UGC funded. But when it comes to facilities that are conducive to the development of teaching and research, we are also willing to discuss with universities. On May and New Territories, North Newtown, the Education Bureau and the Development Bureau have been in close liaison. Based on what we know, as I was walking members through the papers, in the future there will be VPET and higher education lands in this area. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Dennis Lang. Well, my apologies. I'd like to go back to my comment. I hope that the government will focus on VPET in the university town, because if we can focus on technology transfer and VPET, that would be more appropriate. Other universities have other sites for development. I completely agree with the member. We should reserve different districts for different developments. For May, we will focus on INT development there. And we agree that we should be nurturing talents on INT at May, and that's in line with the action agenda. Thank you. Next, Mr. Dennis Lang. On post-secondary education development in the Northern Metropolis, we have discussed this in the meeting of panel on education. We've talked about international education hub. I hope that the government can give us more information about the strategy and directions of development in this meeting. We need to benefit local residents. Now, it seems that we're developing Northern Metropolis to draw for talent and enterprises. Apart from reserving space for top-notch INT enterprises to establish foothold in Hong Kong to drive Hong Kong's development and to accomplish our task of the 8 centers courted by our country, well, we have a Northern Metropolis Coordination Office to coordinate different areas of development in the Northern Metropolis. But I wonder if the Education Bureau has a dedicated task force or a steering committee to actually study the development of education in the Northern Metropolis and how it complements with the overall education development. We have so many universities in Hong Kong already. At the same time, we are faced with a population decline. A lot of universities cannot recruit enough students. When we develop education in the Northern Metropolis, how can we attract more people or more talents to come? Just now, Mr. Luk Chung-hung mentioned this. If we can have top-notch institutions from the mainland establish a campus in Hong Kong, will Hong Kong students actually study in those institutions here? Because they enjoy actually a very low tuition on the mainland. They spend some $15,000 on the mainland every year along with hostels. If they study in Hong Kong, they have to spend some $200,000 to $300,000 per year. If we look at South Korea, the universities in Seoul attract a lot of international students. It's important that we devise a strategy. Just now, Undersecretary said that they have received proposals from post-secondary institutions. But I think that is more important for the government to have a task force to devise strategies. We don't even know when the Northern Metropolis can be developed. When will the hardware be ready? Will they be ready in 5 or 10 years? If we look at Guangzhou, they can complete a campus in 2 years, and they can start recruiting students right away. We need to have more information. Apart from hardware, we also need software. Now we have created a subject on STEM in the primary school, as announced in the policy address last year. After reforming the public examination, we don't have that many students taking science subjects for the DSE. As we are creating more STEM and STEAM courses on the or in the universities, we actually don't have that many students in the primary and secondary schools taking science subjects. And the teachers are not equipped with sufficient knowledge to teach STEAM or STEM subjects. For the mainland, in Guangdong, they have $80 million or 80 million projects. And these projects cater to different needs of the people. Apart from attracting international or mainland students, we need to benefit local residents. The government needs to have a very clear picture so that everyone in Hong Kong can participate in the development. Undersecretary, we have a clear roadmap for post-secondary education development. We will not wait until the completion of the Northern Metropolis before we develop ourselves into an international education hub. To develop Hong Kong into a post-secondary education hub and the cradle of talents is one of the directions that we have. As to how we can benefit local students, Hong Kong is a place with 7.5 million people, and we have 5 universities in the world's top 100. Of course, local students can opt for further studies on the mainland or other countries. Even if our students stay in Hong Kong, they have world-class universities for them to study in. That's one of the benefits to our local students, and we will step up internationalization of local universities. As mentioned, we have some strategies to internationalize post-secondary education institutions in the Northern Metropolis. And we have been stepping up publicity on the branding of our local universities and encourage students to pursue further studies here. And we have been striving for improving the quality of post-secondary education institutions. Although we do have a clear directions, we think that it's important for us to communicate with local institutions. There are some institutions that suggest the setting up of an internationalized university hub at the Northern Metropolis. We hope to turn the university town into a more internationalized place for teaching, research, and development. And we hope that the ratio of non-local students would be higher in the Northern Metropolis University town compared to other districts in Hong Kong. And we want to have an I-campus mode there. And I think that this is beneficial for local students to study in such an internationalized environment or globalized environment. Now we have a trend of local students pursuing further studies on the mainland. But with this complementary mode of education, you can achieve various results. For example, we have some programs that have students study in Hong Kong for 2 years and another 2 years on the mainland. It could be a satellite campus of a UGC-funded university. I think that this kind of diversified way of nurturing talents would benefit Hong Kong. And as university town in the Northern Metropolis is close to Shenzhen, that would facilitate cross-boundary, intersectoral, interdiscipline, and interfaculty collaboration. The university town would facilitate the Northern Metropolis in developing into a talent hub. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chiu Kwok-kan. As mentioned in the paper, the higher institutions in Hong Kong were asked to submit proposals. As with past practice, the 8 UGC-funded universities will have land granted to them directly, but for self-financing post-secondary education institutions, they will have to bid for land. Will the government align the arrangement so that 8 UGC-funded universities and self-financing institutions will have to bid for land? And we have this startup loan scheme to subsidize self-financing institutions to develop and improve campuses. Now, we have a low birth rate, and it's questionable whether the self-financing institutions can actually repay all their loans within 10 years. Will the government ask the post-secondary institutions in the Northern Metropolis step up collaboration with the private sector to alleviate the burden on the government? Thank you. Under Secretary. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chu, for the 2 questions. We have been communicating with the local post-secondary education institutions. Last year, we invited post-secondary institutions that are interested in participating in the Northern Metropolis development to submit proposals. We have consolidated the views from the institutions. We will continue to communicate with these institutions that have submitted the proposals. Regarding the 4 objectives and strategies that we've reported to the members of the subcommittee today, we will relay these objectives and strategies to the post-secondary institutions and to see if their plans are in line with our action agenda and our 4 objectives and strategies. Just now, the member talked about FEPED. That's a very important part of our university town. We don't want to see duplication of resources. As mentioned, some self-financing institutions have campuses in the Greater Bay Area. How do we achieve synergy? We need different campuses to complement with each other. If self-financing institutions already have campuses in the Greater Bay Area, we may not be allowing them to have a campus in the Northern Metropolis to avoid duplication of resources. As for self-financing institutions, well, we have a decline in school-aged population. And as a result, we need to draw for students for undergraduate programs. We have a ceiling for the ratio of non-local students for UGC-funded universities, but for research programs, there is not such a ceiling. I think that local universities have the relevant attraction to draw non-local students to take their high-quality programs. As to whether we should encourage self-financing institutions to work with charitable organizations, well, we would definitely do so. For enterprises that would like to establish a foothold in the Northern Metropolis, if they can work with the self-financing education institutions, then that will achieve some kind of synergy. And we are glad to further, follow up on that.
Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. I've read the papers and have listened to the Undersecretary. I'm still not sure what we're going to drive. After all, we are concerned about the development of the Northern Metropolis. The Northern Metropolis needs post-secondary educational institution to drive its development. Or do they actually need land in the Northern Metropolis for their development? I've heard many major policy directions, but what about in the Northern Metropolis? What do we want to do in the Northern Metropolis? The Undersecretary is in liaison with different universities with the Development Bureau. I raise no objection to it. It's still demand driven. Or is it policy driven? The Undersecretary mentioned Hong Kong land resources are very rare. In Zhuhai, an educational institution, 60 hectares. In Buffalo City, one university, 55 hectares. We need to make good use of land resources. So, from the perspective of the Education Bureau, what should our policy direction be? But in the selection of universities, you need to have clear criteria. So I don't want to hear anything about concepts. Do you have any concrete plans? Undersecretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Lam. Regarding positioning, we refer to the 4 strategies. They are actually very clear. Allow me to elaborate on these 4 strategies. We mentioned industry-led. We mentioned this principle. Indeed, universities groom talents. They provide momentum for the future development of the country and that of Hong Kong. For example, Hong Shui Q, it's in the west of the Northern Metropolis, is a high-end logistics hub and modern services center. Yau Tang Mei is just one station away from the INT city. New Territories North is also an industrial area in the vicinity of the border. So high-end talents are needed in this area. So in the 3 areas mentioned above, we have already earmarked some land. So that the talents can contribute to the respective strengths in this area. That's exactly what is meant by industry-led. At the same time, Hong Kong is a rather small place, but then we still have 5 universities in the world's top 100. Many countries and cities around the world would like to strengthen the development of post-secondary educational institutions. After all, a top-notch university plays a very important role in the development of a city. It's a major development of a country. It can drive the economic, cultural, and societal development of a country. The post-secondary education sector is also facing global challenges. We need to enhance our post-secondary education sector. So it provides development opportunities and room for us. We talk to professors, we talk to teaching and research personnel, and they find they are in a lack of space. The lack of space actually hinders the development of research. Despite the lack of space, with the efforts of research and development talents, there are still many successful outcomes of research and development. I find it encouraging. So we want to help universities to scale new heights. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Undersecretary. I understand that we need to groom talents, but a talent, talents can move to other areas, not just Ngao Tam Mei or Kutong North. In the entire Hong Kong, GBA, our country, or even the world. Is actually different. Grooming and talent is different from combining industry, academic, and research. I will always ask why these universities need to establish presence in the Northern Metropolis. What is the function? What is the use? I will keep asking this question, Undersecretary. I agree with member in our discussion and communication with universities or educational institutions. We will relay the members' views to universities or educational institutions. We'll forward your views. In the future, the courses or programs provided by the educational institutions, well, I think these courses are important to the promotion of VPET. When there are internship opportunities or when enterprises can take part in the design of curriculum, they can also hold teaching sessions with students. This way we can achieve synergy. I agree that some projects are actually research-based instead of providing programs or courses. But for the projects in the Northern Metropolis, we'll try our best to make them more suitable for the overall development of the Northern Metropolis. We've heard members' views. Thank you. Next, Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, while I was listening to the Undersecretary walking us through the papers, there are 2 points that are particularly impressive. 1, promoting the development of VPET, and 2, promoting the brand of staying in Hong Kong upon graduation. In the Northern Metropolis, we've earmarked over 60 hectares of land. Regarding the principle of industry-led, we need to be targeted. We need to attach importance to VPET. How can we make society attach importance to VPET? That's important. Well, we all know people studying VPET would like to get a bachelor degree ultimately. The tourism sector has been saying that those studying tourism and hospitality will not stay in Hong Kong ultimately. That is how many graduates are willing to stay in Hong Kong to stay in this industry. It seems statistics in the past are not very positive. Regarding the development of VPET, the reason why it requires land is that the provision of accommodation is very important. That is, we need to have sufficient hostel places. What is the cost of coming to Hong Kong to study VPET courses? A VTC course takes 60,000 per year. For a 2-year course, it can cost as much as $120,000. When one comes to Hong Kong for study, one also needs to handle accommodation matters. It takes at least $300,000. So when you attract overseas or mainland students to come to Hong Kong to study VPET, for example, a higher diploma program, the cost is actually very high. For the future development of VPET, we need to have sufficient hostel places that's conducive to attracting different students from different places to come to Hong Kong. So I'd like the Education Bureau to plan well in this regard. Regarding the future development of VPET, we need to seize this opportunity to plan it well. Regarding the brand of studying in Hong Kong and staying in Hong Kong, we can leverage the support of the tourism sector. Study tours are very popular. That's how you can promote a place. If we can attract mainland students to come to Hong Kong for study tours, for example, they will have a better grasp of the education system in Hong Kong. They will also have a better understanding of the life in Hong Kong. Their experiences will be very helpful. The Education Bureau should promote activities like study tours like that. In the past, we've been encouraging Hong Kong students to go back to the mainland for study tours. But looking forward, do we need to encourage mainland students to come to Hong Kong for study tours? That can also be a brand in the context of tourism, not just in that of education. But we need to upgrade our hardware. Many schools do not have sufficient hostel places. It's difficult to ask students to stay in hotel when they come to study in Hong Kong. So in the Northern Metropolis, has the Education Bureau considered developing a study tour center to tie in with the development in this connection? Undersecretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Perry Yu. Be it the promotion of VPET or that of studying in Hong Kong, we have been promoting these two at the same time. We don't wait until there are educational institutions in the Northern Metropolis before we promote these two aspects. On hostel places, especially for self-financing educational institutions promoting VPET, we adopt an open-mind attitude. There are shared facilities for different campuses. They also told us about the problem with hostel places. Indeed, not many self-financing institutions can provide hostel places owing to the restriction of campuses. So in the Northern Metropolis, probably some educational institutions can provide hostel places for VPET students. We are willing to look into that. Regarding attracting students of different places to come to Hong Kong for study tours or for education, we have been encouraging them. With more and more local students going to the mainland for exchange, actually some schools have arrangement by which they send students over. It was difficult in the midst of the epidemic, but upon the resumption of normal travel, there have been many study tours or exchange tours. In some cases, local students are encouraged to go to the mainland for study tours, and Some sister schools in the mainland may also ask their students to come to Hong Kong for study tours or exchange tours. There are many sister schools in the mainland. Perhaps we can add this encouragement factor. It's not just about post-secondary education. It's about the overall arrangements. I can discuss with Mr. Perry Yu after the meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
下一位陳佩良議員。
係，多謝主席。
Next, Mr. Chan Pui-Leung. Thank you, Chairman. To develop post-secondary education in Northern Metropolis by adopting this industry-led approach, I agree with that. 60 hectares of land will be reserved in the Northern Metropolis to develop the university town. So how many post-secondary institutions will be established there? And has the government assessed the number of graduates and whether we have the industries to absorb these graduates? We may have non-local students in the Northern Metropolis. Do we have a plan to balance the number of local and non-local students in the Northern Metropolis? Second, how do the programs or the universities interface or match with the industry demand? So do we accord priority to institutions or universities with an edge in a certain area? Lastly, do you have a timetable or timeline? When will the first post-secondary education institution be established in the Northern Metropolis? Thank you. Undersecretary. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chan, for the 3 questions. For the first and second question, there are about how many universities that will be set up in the Northern Metropolis and what kind of programs will be offered, along with the number of graduates. Well, we don't have such specific numbers yet. But overall speaking, as I mentioned in my opening remark, when we talked to different post-secondary institutions last year, some institutions want to relocate the entire campus from the urban area to Northern Metropolis. And some institutions plan to set up satellite campuses in the Northern Metropolis. Or an additional teaching space in the Northern Metropolis. And some institutions want to set up academic space in the Northern Metropolis. If we have an institutions to have an entire campus move to Northern Metropolis, that may take up more space and that will lower the number of institutions that we can have in the Northern Metropolis. As mentioned, we have shared facilities, including data center, animal center in the Northern Metropolis to be shared among different universities and post-secondary institutions. If we have more such kind of shared facilities, then we can allow more institutions to have their campuses in the Northern Metropolis. We will follow up on the proposal submitted by the post-secondary institutions. We have 4 objectives that we want to achieve, including industry-led. We need to develop into an international post-secondary education hub, so on and so forth. The member asked how the program would interface with the industry demand. Well, Hongshui-Q will be developed first because in 2026, the site in Hongshui-Q Hachun will be formed. The 5 hectares of land at Hongshui-Q Hachun will be made available by the end of this year, and we can accept applications by then. For Hongshui-Q, that's a high-end professional services and logistics hub at the western side of the Northern Metropolis. When we introduce post-secondary institutions at Hongshui-Q Hachun, we want these institutions to offer programs that is connected to the development of Hongshui-Q Hachun. And that's one of the criteria that we will look at before we hand the land over to the post-secondary institutions for development. Next, Mr. Jeffrey Lam. Thank you, Chairman. The last reform of post-secondary education happened in 1994. Because of the immigration wave, the government turned a number of higher institutions into universities. Some institutions were transformed, but I think that the overall planning is not comprehensive enough. For example, on the locations of different institutions and universities. Northern Metropolis is a great opportunity for us to rearrange our institutions and redesign our policy. Northern Metropolis has an area of 30,000 hectares. We need to design the metropolis afresh. Over the past century, we have some policies that have been in place for a long time, and the government said that we should not change any policy, but then they gave up the idea on the super cemetery. There are some environmental issues with the sentient technopole, and that drove some discussion in the community. We will have some 60 hectares of land for educational purposes. We need to look at the demand in different areas. For Hongshui-Q, we have to look at the industry demand there. I do not fully agree with the district-based approach on education. We do need to support every district, and we need to complement with the development of Greater Bay Area. But recently, I heard that some institutions do not have space to develop. For example, the Hong Kong UST is not located in the Northern Metropolis. Well, I think that I've gone beyond the scope of discussion today, but I think that is related to the development of Northern Metropolis. Why can't we allow the Hong Kong UST to expand in situ instead of asking them to set up a new campus in the Northern Metropolis? We have achieved great results in terms of our education development. A lot of talents go into R&D sector, manufacturing sector. How do we benefit our younger generation and our industry, trade, and commercial sector? We train talents, but most of them have gone to somewhere else. Hong Kong has always been a training hub. Since the opening up of our country, we have supplied our country with numerous talents. But as we are one country, that's not a problem. But how do we educate our talents so that we can commercialize our R&D outcome? That's the direction that we should work on. We have this R&D outcome, but we cannot commercialize them. And that's a problem. I think that we have to be diversified in terms of our planning. Thank you. Undersecretary. The member's questions were spot on. In the 19th, there were not a lot of people who could enter the university. And in the 80s, we had a report to develop the third university in Hong Kong, that is the UST, and to raise the ratio of student age population to a certain percentage. That is why some higher institutions were converted into universities. We have a drop in the student age population, and some post-secondary institutions are having challenges recruiting enough students. We were at Entreport and we were faced with challenges. That is why we need to transform our talents and convert ourselves into a knowledge-based society. I think that the current challenge that we have is different. We need to now identify a new engine for economic development to develop Northern professional services, modern logistics, and INT, boundary commerce, and industry. These are the positionings of the Northern Metropolis. I think that the local institutions and universities can make their corresponding contribution. Apart from nurturing talents, as the member rightly pointed out, we need to work on industry, academic, and research. We need to commercialize R&D outcome. We should not just focus on research and development. We need to commercialize and sell the products in the mid and low stream or downstream of the chain. We hope to achieve this. Universities are where we nurture talents and innovate. And I think that the universities and post-secondary education institutions can help commercialize the R&D outcome. And if the higher institutions and universities can work with the INT enterprises, that will facilitate the development of Hong Kong.
Mr. Lee Chen Kang, thank you, Chairman. There's a large parcel of land in the Northern Metropolis for development. I'm glad to see the administration would like to focus different industries in the Northern Metropolis. Education is very important. We start from education, then there are different stages in life. All start with education. Hong Kong has been having different stages of development, different ups and downs. There are also associate degree programs. There are VPAT programs, secretary programs. Do we need more post-secondary education programs? We need to look at statistics. It's actually difficult for some blue-collar workers to look for jobs. There are aircraft maintenance workers. It's difficult to look for these talents, but then a lot of places looking for these talents. There are talents repairing aircraft, maintaining vessels. There's a serious dearth of these talents. Can you consider working with Tencent, Alibaba, that is the top-notch enterprises in the mainland? Can you work with these enterprises to provide like a one-stop education pathway for these students? How can we better interface with the mainland? There are some joint school admission programs. For example, can we organize some joint school programs or campuses, for example, between Hong Kong U and Beijing University? We want to make it convenient for Hong Kong students to go to the mainland to further their studies. Both the location and the programs are very important. There could be touchless customs arrangements. As for the admission of universities, there can be different queues. So I'd like the administration to liaise more frequently with members. Now that we have a piece of land right here, what is the global trend? What can we do? What is the development trend of our country? Let's say we are focusing on high quality development. How can we fare well in new material design, new material development, as well as low altitude economy? Undersecretary. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Lee. I'm willing to liaise and explore with members. Just now we touched upon how we can give full play to the strengths of Hong Kong and make contributions to our country. I go along with Mr. Lee. In the Northern Metropolis, one of our goals is to make contributions to our country. We can work with the educational institutions in the mainland. Mr. Lee just now talked about VPAT. We have already reviewing sub-degree programs. As for associate degree programs and higher diploma programs, their positioning is clear now. There's a difference in their positioning. Member also mentioned a one-stop education path. As I understand, in basic education or in secondary or primary schools, will there be international programs that can provide interfacing with the development of higher education or post-secondary education? We are promoting the development of different industries. We talk about career planning. We don't start at university. We actually start in secondary schools or in higher primary schools. We want students to be up to speed on the development of different industries. It's also part of career planning or life planning. So we should let students know about this area earlier on in, say, senior primary school or secondary schools. There will be international schools in the Northern Metropolis. There will also be primary and secondary schools. So when we plan the post-secondary education, curriculum design, we can let the younger generations know about the future development of Hong Kong. We can bring them up to speed so that they will know what talents different industries look for. Thank you. Next, Mr. Frankie Yik. He's not with us right now. Dr. Hui Simon Lee. Thank you, Chairman. It's good to discuss the development of post-secondary education in the Northern Metropolis. We have more land. We have more land resources. We should think about the direction of post-secondary education. What's the development of universities? There were things we couldn't do in the past, but then with the Northern Metropolis, we can do these. For example, we need to move towards internationalization. There's a lack of hostel places. How can we add more places? This is a preliminary analysis and the development strategies. I understand. How can the post-secondary education use the land? We should say how the universities should develop. Just now, member mentioned we should conduct a review to decide on the future direction. What is our positioning? In many cities in the mainland, there are university cities. The main purposes are twofold. One, quota, that is allowing more students. Two, to vacate land in the cities. Many university cities in the mainland have these two purposes. So what about our Northern Metropolis? What about us? What is the major direction of post-secondary education? What kind of students we want to groom? We want to internationalize our university town so that we need to provide more hostel places. If we want to serve Belt and Road countries, do we need to provide school places for these students or to attract them to come to Hong Kong? For example, for Tsinghua University, it's also influential. It really boils down to our university, the policy on post-secondary education. The idea of shared universities, shared facilities among universities is indeed great. On the principle of industry-led, if we are talking about commercialization of research outcomes, they may not need a lot of land. Rather, in the process, say manufacture that requires land. Maybe we need to think about the use of land. Northern Metropolis connects Hong Kong and Shenzhen. For clinical medications, there are a total of 4 phases. We're in the phase 1. So will it drive industrial development or will it be more conducive to the research development of universities. Regarding the last point, on the principle of industry-led and internationalization, basic research is important. It's about the development strategies of universities. We shouldn't neglect it. I have more views, but that's all from me right now. Thank you, member. Thank you for your very good suggestions. Our positioning is very clear. In 2023 policy address, the chief executive said that we need to build an international post-secondary education hub. We are the only city with 5 universities in the world's top 100. Against the existing global landscape, many countries and places around the world are developing their post-secondary education hub. They want to have eminent universities. In Hong Kong, we have a population of 7 million odd, but then we have 5 universities in the world's top 100. This is brilliant. With keener and keener competition, we do need to develop post-secondary education in Hong Kong. We shouldn't just focus on the ranking. If we need to further develop the post-secondary education hub, we are hamstrung by a lack of space in Hong Kong. Members mentioned the source of students. How can we diversify the source of students in order to advance towards internationalization? We need to overcome the obstacles in order to further develop our post-secondary education hub. On internationalization, we don't wait until there are universities moving into the Northern Metropolis before we think about it. Today, the brand of studying in Hong Kong is already underway. We are already working on this. How can we make contributions to the economy? This is important as well. Regarding our 4 strategies to develop post-secondary education in the Northern Metropolis, we have the principle of industry-led. We can tie in with the Northern Metropolis Action Agenda. Member just now mentioned positioning. There are different definitions of university, towns, or city all around the world. Probably in a city overseas, when there are different eminent universities around in one single city, they will call it university city as well. Whereas for some university cities, there are developments surrounding a university, and they also call it a university city. In the future, there will be influential or eminent universities establishing presence in these cities. So we need to map out the future of university towns with the characteristics of Hong Kong. What about sharing of data, mutual recognition of medications? I believe the Health Bureau will work on the register of medications. That is to facilitate cross-border or cross-boundary sharing. Thank you.
都有補充嘅。
The director of NMCO would like to supplement. Just now, Dr. Lee asked about commercialization of R&D outcome. That may not necessarily take place at universities, because apart from offering or providing land for education, we also have land for INT. Particularly in Santin Technopole, there will be a great supply of INT land for mid and downstream, including manufacturing and testing of R&D outcome. Other parts of the Northern Metropolis will have land for new industrialization as well. All these land will complement with the development of post-secondary education so that we can have a complementary development of industry, academic, and research. Next, Mr. Yim Kong. The Northern Metropolis Action Agenda points out that the development of the university town would provide more STEAM talents and support the 8 centers positioning of Hong Kong. Our school subjects are not comprehensive enough, and that will affect the supply of talents. For example, as a logistics hub, we have a geographical location in developing port economy, but we don't have that many study centers for marine. We only have 2 study centers in Hong Kong U. For aerospace program, it's only offered by Hong Kong UST. For health technologies programs, it's only offered by Hong Kong U and CUHK. So as we are developing these new productive forces, will we adjust the programs that we offer? For example, for marine development and other sectors that I mentioned, will we be offering more programs to nurture relevant talents? Will we attract satellite campuses of renowned universities overseas to the Northern Metropolis? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member. Just now, the member said that Hong Kong does not offer a wide range of choices in terms of undergraduate programs. In particular, how we meet the demand for economic development. We do have a KPI that within 3 years in the UGC-funded universities, about 60% of the undergraduate programs should be relevant to the Hong Kong's positioning as an 8 centers under the 14th five-year plan. As for the types of the programs to be offered, we will talk to the Secretariat of the University Grants Committee. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, we encourage intersectoral collaboration between or among institutions in Hong Kong, overseas, and the mainland. For ocean economy, aerospace, technology programs, it's true that there are post-secondary institutions that are offering such kind of programs on the mainland. And the mainland has nurtured a number of aerospace talents. And we do have room to encourage our local universities to collaborate with the institutions on the mainland. Last year, the Hong Kong UST launched the first locally invented and manufactured satellite. And we collaborated with the mainland on that. Due to various reasons, some programs were not offered in Hong Kong, but we understand that the local institutions are working on it and they're reviewing the programs that they offer, having taken into account the economic development in order to nurture relevant talents. Thank you. It's my turn. And then there are two members who would like to speak for the second round, including Professor William Wong and Mr. Chu Kwok-kun. Post-secondary education development in the Northern Metropolis, I definitely support that. We should turn ourselves into an INT hub, and education is very important to the development. Regarding support for INT, R&D, and VPET, we can do so by establishing a university town. We've always been talking about this education industry, but it has not emerged yet. What is the reason for that? Is it because we lack land, resources? If that's the case, then Northern Metropolis can solve the issue. On talents, when talents decide whether or not to come to Hong Kong, they will look at whether we have schools to satisfy their education needs for their children. I have a few questions. First, let me first ask about talents. When talents plan to come to Hong Kong, they will look at whether we have schools for their children. They will look at, for example, international schools or traditional schools. Mainland talents and enterprises, before they establish foothold in Hong Kong, they will see if we have schools offering mainland curriculum. I know that there will be the first school offering mainland curriculum in Tin Shui Wai, and tendering is underway. I wonder what is the progress. Apart from the 60 hectares of new territories, Northern Metropolis, if private organizations want to sponsor a school for the members of their family office or fund, will the Education Bureau support them? I know that the site will only be formed in 2026, and the universities can only be commissioned sometime after that. Have you decided on the layout? Because I know that a lot of post-secondary institutions are interested in opening a campus in the Northern Metropolis. The secretary is in North Point right now, and I know that we will be developing universities of applied sciences. So have you decided on the positioning of the town or the layout of the university town? Undersecretary. Thank you, Chairman. You ask about schools offering non-local curriculum. Chairman is correct in saying that we have set aside a land in Tianshui, Yuen Long to set up the first school that offer mainland curriculum. We know that when mainland talents come to Hong Kong, they need schools that offer mainland curriculum. I know that the school sponsoring body is preparing for the construction of the school. It is expected that the Tianshui campus will be commissioned no later than the 2027-28 school year, and they will offer 900 primary and secondary school places. Just now, the chairman asked, what if some private companies want to establish schools at the Northern Metropolis? Well, if any enterprises want to set up school anywhere in Hong Kong, they will have to talk to the Education Bureau, and we have to look at the land use. We will be introducing quality international schools and school sponsoring body to establish schools in Hong Kong. But again, we have to look at the land use. And how we can make the land available for the construction of school. As for the future development of Hong Shi Kiu Ha Chun, well, the site will be made ready by 2026, and the site will be formed by then for allocation. As for other sites, we will see when they will be farmed and made available for development. We will continue to keep in close liaison with relevant departments. In the meantime, we will review the proposals submitted by the institutions, and we will follow up on the proposals with them. As I mentioned, we need to tie the views proposed by the institutions with the 4 objectives that we mentioned. And we will see if institutions will amend their proposals, having considered the 4 objectives that we propose. We will keep communicating with these institutions. We will take into account the viability, the cost effectiveness, and how the post-secondary institutions will make use of the land accorded or allocated to them to develop. Thank you.
嘅發言，黃錦。
Second round, Professor William Wong. Thank you, Chairman. The discussion today is very good. At the end of 2022, there was the Hong Kong INT development blueprint. We are working towards this direction. We want to drive the midstream as well as the downstream, and we are working towards it. If we need to drive the midstream and the downstream on the principle of industry-led, I have a question. We didn't talk about applied research centers in Hong Kong, so on and so forth. Of course, it's not under the purview of the Education Bureau, but I suggest inviting them to discuss this issue. When it comes to the principle of industry-led, there are other issues involved, say IP, technology transformation, and so on. We lack this We lack this kind of talents to commercialize the research results, the outcomes, and so on. The Education Bureau should see whether it can encourage other schools to hold more of these courses in order to drive this. It's just my suggestion. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Professor William Wong. In the development of the Northern Metropolis University town, it is inextricably linked to innovation and technology. It's also very close to Santin Technopole, so we'll work with the ITIB. We'll maintain a close dialogue with one another on IP technology transformation or transfer. We will discuss these. It's also one of the 8 centers, so we'll keep close liaison with universities or educational institutions. We work very closely with different bureaus or departments. Any more questions? If no, we thank the Undersecretary from the Education Bureau and the Northern Metropolis official. Any other business? If there's no any other business, meeting adjourned. Thank you.